As the Israel-Hamas war enters its second month, what happens when the war is over is not yet clear. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu raised eyebrows earlier this week when he said that Israel needs to be in charge of Gaza's security for an indefinite period to prevent future attacks on Israel. Since then, Israeli officials have clarified his comments, saying that it would not be a reoccupation. Still, the U.S. says a long-term presence is not a good idea.
Gaza cannot be continue to be run by Hamas. It's also clear that Israel cannot occupy Gaza. Now, the reality is that there may be a need for some transition period at the end of the conflict, but it is imperative that the Palestinian people be central to governance in Gaza and in the West Bank as well, and that again we don't see a reoccupation.
So if Israel's only going to be in charge of security, who exactly is going to govern Gaza? It's a question that's come up time and time again. As you remember, Israel pulled out of the enclave back in 2005. The Hamas political wing has been in charge since 2007 after driving out Fatah. There have been suggestions that the UN or perhaps even the Palestinian Authority could step in, but neither is a popular option.
So time now for the exchange. We're joined by Mark Regev, a senior advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Mark, welcome to the program. Thanks for taking the time. So now we know there's been some clarification from your government as to what the Prime Minister was indicating, that there may be a temporary security hold over Gaza by Israel. But in terms of who will be governing Gaza, aside from saying it won't be Hamas, we don't have a definitive answer from the Israelis. And today we heard from U.S. Secretary of State Blinken sort of the closest signal of where the U.S. stands on this. Take a listen.
We must also work on the affirmative elements to get to a sustained peace. These must include the Palestinian people's voices and aspirations at the center of post-crisis governance in Gaza. It must include Palestinian-led governance and Gaza unified with the West Bank under the Palestinian Authority. And it must include a sustained mechanism for reconstruction in Gaza and a pathway to Israelis and Palestinians living side by side in states of their own with equal measures of security, freedom, opportunity, and dignity.
So we heard him say Gaza should be unified with the West Bank under the Palestinian Authority once the war ends. Is that a position that Israel agrees with? And do you think it's one that could hold given what we saw in 2007 after the PA was effectively kicked out of Gaza? How do you avoid another coup if the PA comes back?
I mean, you raised some very important points because, as you just said, when Israel pulled out of the Gaza Strip in 2005, it was handed over to the Palestinian Authority. But they lost power to Hamas shortly after that, and Hamas has ruled ever since. 16 years of Hamas rule, and what has it brought the people of Gaza? Hardship, suffering, pain, and impoverishment. So it's clear when this is over and Hamas is no longer running the Gaza Strip, there'll be opportunities, I think, for Gazans that didn't exist before, important opportunities. As you said, though, however, Israel is not interested in just letting things fall apart after we destroy Hamas. We have to make sure that the security situation is stable. We have to make sure there isn't a residual terrorist element that starts to grow again. And Israel cannot ignore what goes on in Gaza.